Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Ian.
Did you watch wrestling this week?
I did watch wrestling this week. It did
Yeah,
happen again,
me too. I did it again this week.
and like with no effort. I
N-
was able to do it so easily.
oh yeah. In fact, like I took effort away from other things I could have done, and
Yeah,
I put it towards watching wrestling, to the dismay of others in my life.
I have no others, but I have wrestling.
You have a wife and children.
I do. Someone should check on them. Anyway,
Oh boy. Um.
it's quite a week. Quite a week
Yeah.
this week.
Yeah. There's some pretty sad news in
Yeah,
wrestling.
I
Just came out this
struggled with
afternoon.
this. I struggled with this because this is Zen in the art of watching wrestling.
Hmm.
So it's supposed to be like the good stuff, the
Yeah.
fun stuff. And this is a definite bummer.
Well, it's a definite bummer, but it is a chance to sort of celebrate his life and career, so you
Mm-hmm.
can, I mean, death, it comes for all of us,
True.
but, you
True.
know, Terry got to live a long life and, well, yeah, a long life.
Yeah.
And,
Okay. First of all, he got to live a long life, like for a normal person.
yeah,
How old was he? Sorry, I missed you
he
saying
was, he was 79. So,
79.
you know,
Second of all, for those of us who followed Terry Funk's career, he
yeah.
had no business living that long at
Oh,
all.
no.
Uh,
Uh,
and and thirdly, for a professional wrestler, 79 is like 208. So congrats to Terry all around and a
when
well-deserved rest.
Yes, exactly. A well deserved rest for sure. Um, it was interesting. Like I was looking through just before we started, like what are some of the top matches of Terry Funk's career and things like that, and I realized like he was born in 1944. He won the NWA championship in 1975. So his peak athletic years, he's
Mm-hmm.
touring around with the NWA world title, but a lot of like his peak athletic years are kind of lost to history a little bit. He
Mm-hmm.
started in, I think it was 1966. He's NWA champion in the mid 70s, but that was before there's much of a tape library built up. Like you'll get some matches that were taped.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see some matches from the 60s, some from the 70s. There's some stuff on
Yeah.
YouTube of him in All Japan in the 70s, but for the most part, like you don't get to a stage where every match is filmed and can be viewed by everyone until you're in the early to mid 80s, really.
Yeah.
And so I just thought about like how many great Terry Funk matches are sort of lost to history because his peak period comes from before everything was being filmed. But I
Yeah.
looked like his top. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just say, yeah, and to think that like we saw that the generations of the eras of wrestling that he worked through. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was still taking matches like 5, 10 years ago, you know?
Oh God, yeah, yeah. I mean, he was still taking matches like really late in his life, and so much of his career like took place after he was in his mid 40s. Like I
Yeah.
was looking
The
at
really
his
hardcore stuff too.
yeah, and that was oh no, the really hardcore stuff. He's in his 50s by that.
Yeah.
His but his top rated match of his career, like the consensus is from like Dave Meltzer, cagematch.net, like places that rank matches. The top match of his career was the I Quit match versus Ric Flair in 1989 at Clash of the Champions.
Mhm.
And he was 45 years old when that
Yeah.
that match took place, and so it's like, oh man, like if he's doing those kinds of matches at 45, like I wish we could see
Mm.
him at 25, but the stuff from the early 70s, late 60s, you don't get to see as much. But the
Also,
hardcore stuff.
I don't like how close I am to 45 and have never won a world championship.
Well, okay, so I was looking at another one of his matches. It's very highly rated. And so if you're looking like if you're you heard the news about Terry Funk and you're looking for matches to watch, definitely any of his matches with Ric Flair in 1989 are very good. And just consider that he's late stage Tom Brady in the NFL at that point. Like he's 45 and he won a Super Bowl basically.
And no one knows how.
Yeah. But yeah, so definitely anything with Ric Flair in 1989. But then you get to the mid 90s and he goes out to Japan where deathmatch wrestling becomes a real thing. He had a no ropes barbed wire match with Cactus Jack in Japan, and he was 51 years old. 51 years old when he did those matches with Cactus Jack in Japan. And I mean, I think I kind of like knew but being past 50, especially like in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like in the 90s, if you were past 40, you were done as an athlete. If you were past 50, like,
and if you
it wasn't even
that long.
considered. Yeah, yes, exactly. And so he was doing those death matches when he was in his early 50s. He did the entirety of the Monday Night Wars. And he was either with ECW, WWF, or WCW throughout the entire Monday Night Wars. And he was already in his 50s when those started. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the idea of him as like the hardcore icon. I do wonder, that stuff, the deathmatch stuff, you and I, people of our age who are fans for a long time, we've all seen that footage so much that it's almost desensitized us to it.
Yeah.
But like, I wonder how much is known about that stuff to newer fans these days.
Yeah, I mean, deathmatch wrestling, like for a period in the 90s, especially when ECW came around.
Yeah.
Like hardcore wrestling, deathmatch wrestling, it was really, really popular. It's not really that now. I think the more we know about the actual physical impacts of this stuff, the less we sort of celebrate the unnecessarily damaging type stuff in wrestling, right? Like it's the same thing. Like if you see a match now and somebody does an unprotected chair shot, there's a significant percentage of the audience that'll go, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case in the mid 90s. We wanted to see all of it. Set yourself on fire, roll around in glass. Awesome
thumbtacks, Legos, whatever you got.
Yeah. Now it's still around. Like GCW does a lot of deathmatch wrestling with like Nick Gage, and they do light tubes, everything. It's around, but it's not as popular now as it was then. Like ECW was a huge deal. Deathmatch wrestling in Japan was a huge deal. It's not, it's way more niche now. Well, I mean, it was still niche then, but it's more niche now.
Yeah, I guess it's just because once WWE kind of adopted the quasi hardcore style.
Yeah.
Which was really just the hardcore style, slightly safer. And I mean, very slightly safer. Once they sort of adopted that and made it sort of mainstream, if you will, to, give it that parlance, I think we just got used to it.
Yeah.
And it kind of, in a way, in a tiny way, it kind of became like The Walking Dead, where one day you're sitting there and you watch it and you realize, I'm just watching this to see who dies. I don't care about anything else. That's not a good attitude to have when watching a TV. So you sit there just watching wrestling being like, I wonder who's going to like almost bleed to death tonight for my entertainment. Like, that's just not a great mentality to have. So I think it waned after a while when people are kind of like you say, I don't know if I want to see that.
All right. Before technical difficulties, what was I saying? Terry Funk is awesome.
Terry Funk is awesome. Hardcore wrestling was cool then, but kind of uncomfortable now. And Terry Funk continued to be awesome. Boy, I wish we could have watched more Terry Funk.
That was pretty much it. If you're looking for Terry Funk matches to watch, definitely anything with Ric Flair in 1989 was very, very good. That was actually a cool period for WCW, or well, actually, I think it was still NWA at that time. It was they had the Flair Steamboat trilogy. And then right when the Flair Steamboat trilogy ends, like as soon as the last match was over, Terry Funk came out to congratulate Flair, but ended up pile driving him through a table. And that was at a time where you didn't expect people to go through a table, and you're like, what are they doing standing on top of that table? Oh my god, it broke. Like it was new.
Yeah, it was a thing.
Like that was years before Sabu was doing it in every match, right? Or the Dudleys.
It was years before
ECW.
like the leg drop was a finisher. So
yeah. So those were great. And then anything that he did in All Japan Pro Wrestling in like the 80s was super good. And then of course, he was there for the whole Monday Night War. He was in his 50s for it. But if you're ever feeling like you want to feel like you're not getting that old, watch Terry Funk in the 90s. Man, that guy, he was in his 50s and doing crazy things.
There was one match he had on Raw with Mick Foley. It was a big thing because Mick Foley was quitting the company. This is the first match he'd ever wrestled as just Mick Foley, no persona.
I know exactly the one you're talking about. It was a number one contenders match.
Yeah, against Terry Funk. And Terry Funk did a moonsault off the top of the ring, off the top of the post, onto the guardrail. Like he completely missed and hit the guardrail with his hip. And this wasn't like the soft padded formed guardrails they have now. Yeah. This was just when they used, a steel fence that they found lying around. And I thought he was dead. Like he just took that hit and I was like, oh God, this is the end. But no, he bounced up, finished the match.
I absolutely remember that match. It was the main event of a Raw. I believe it was 1998. It was right after Austin had won the title, and they were building up Mick Foley as his big challenger. But Mick Foley as the evil dude Love, who Vince McMahon wants to make sort of the corporate champion. So yeah, I remember exactly that match was fantastic. And just like a couple of months maybe before that was the dumpster match at WrestleMania 14.
Oh my God.
Him and Cactus Jack versus the New Age Outlaws. Gotta be one of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time.
Now, was that the match? Was that the match, or was it a match leading up to that match or after that match? Were they? I think it was a dumpster match. Again, they were sent to the hospital. Then they escaped from the hospital and came back, and like Cactus Jack was wheeling his IV, and Chainsaw Charlie was in his thing from the hospital.
Okay,
I thought that was the first time I looked at wrestling and was like, I don't know if this is on the level.
That was a classic episode of Raw. So early 1998, like in the build up to WrestleMania. So probably like March, somewhere around there. And it was classic. So they were brawling with the New Age Outlaws. New Age Outlaws put them in a dumpster, shoved the dumpster off the ramp. And it was like this big show long story where like, they were blurring the lines between, storyline and real. And you had like Sonny. Oh God, Sonny. Sonny.
Wow. I mean, I agree, but wow.
Yes. Sonny was out there and she like full on crying, like doing a fantastic performance. Like people were acting like this was like this horrible tragedy. Then later on in the main event, DX is in the main event or something, and Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie have escaped from the hospital, and they run down the ramp, and I think one of them still had their IV, like you said, and was rolling. I can't remember which one. And oh my god, I remember thinking that was just fantastic. Like the entire show had been like, this is so tragic. And then at the end, like,
it just showed up.
I loved it. You know what? I'm going to watch
documentary on that one.
Okay. So if you're watching Terry Funk matches, 1989 versus Ric Flair, 1995 death matches with Cactus Jack, the whole feud with the New Age Outlaws leading up to the dumpster match. That should give you a good start. And anything you can find from the 70s and 80s.
I think he was also the sheriff in WCW for a few months.
He was. He
in
did
WCW in the late 90s and early 2000s. Anyone who came in new was just automatically the sheriff. So
He was Vince Russo era WCW. I think he was there right up into the closing too. Yeah, Vince Russo brought him in. He was the commissioner of WCW. I remember he wrestled. I believe he wrestled Bret Hart in a world title match at one point, but I think Bret was concussed at that time. It was sort of near the end of his career. But yeah, Terry Funk did the entire Monday Night Wars right up to the end.
It's amazing.
Awesome. All right.
So,
well, we got to talk about Edge too.
Yeah. Something that's always fascinated me, Ian.
Sure, just tell me.
Wrestler fashion.
Fashion, okay.
Wrestler fashion has always blown my. I love seeing pictures of wrestlers and seeing like the ridiculous things that they're wearing in their everyday lives. The commitment to the fanny packs, the gym T-shirt. It's just it's beautiful.
Yep.
And oftentimes that interest doesn't bleed into the ring, but this time it definitely did, because loyal Canadian and Toronto adjacent
Torontonians.
Edge came out for what he said was his last match in Toronto, wearing the coolest gear I've ever seen. Total Toronto Maple Leafs from waist to ankle, because that's all he wears. And I thought, just how cool is that? What a great hometown nod. And I feel like he should actually join the team, and perhaps they could win.
Well, they'd have one guy that, you know what, like, it's been a rough year for Toronto Maple Leafs fans who are also wrestling fans. I almost feel like Edge feels he needs to appease Maple Leaf fans in the same way that Christian has pissed them off.
Yeah, fair.
Christian and Edge both diehard Leaf fans. You know, there was pictures of them in Tampa for the Leafs Lightning series there, and Christian, of course, in his 2 trips to Toronto this year, just tore a strip off Leafs fans, like, because he knew how to hurt us, because it would hurt him. So like, he knew where to hit us, and so when he came in October, he was like, you know, there's a few things that are certain in life, and one of them is the Leafs are going to go out in the first round. I was like, you know how much that hurts.
It's hitting below the belt, sir.
There are things that are out of line here.
Good day to you, sir.
Because as I believe I've mentioned to you, not on this show before, the Toronto Maple Leafs, I believe, have caused more fan disappointment than any other franchise in the history of sports, right? Like, no one loves hockey as much as the people in Toronto do. And we haven't had a Stanley Cup since Terry Funk was 23 years old.
Wow.
That was quick math. Edge, Christian, they've never seen the Leafs win a Stanley Cup. That hurts. So Christian knew how that would make us feel. And I felt like Edge was like, you know what, when I come back, I got to do something for the Leafs fans.
Yeah.
So
they truly are. I thought that was cool. Maligned.
They also put out an Edge T-shirt with all with like Maple Leafs themed.
Oh, cool.
So that was kind of cool. Yeah.
They did I remember when Sami Zayn had his Habs shirt.
Yeah. He was the honorary Hab. And actually, I felt bad for the Montreal wrestling fans too, right? Because they haven't won a cup since the early 90s, which is as
30 years ago.
Said before. Yeah, there you go. Well, a little bit over now. And the big thing is they've never won a championship in the Bell Center, right? And you know, they've had so much heartbreak in Montreal, and also in wrestling, they had the screw job. And then I know from talking to wrestling fans that went, a lot of them thought Sami Zayn was going to beat Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber, and then just didn't. So a lot of heartbreak for Canadian hockey and wrestling fans this year.
Yeah, it's a weird trifecta, but it makes sense. as someone who is a Toronto Maple Leafs fan living in Montreal. So
yeah.
I'm a lonely blue dot on this very red island.
Now, have you heard the? Well, there's tons of Montreal fans living in Toronto and vice versa too.
Well, yes.
But have you heard the latest on what's going on with Edge?
Well, I imagine like I feel like if Edge was really retiring, like really intended to hang things up, a much bigger deal would have been made out of it.
Yeah.
So I expect to see a picture of him and his pearly whites telling me that he's all elite at some point in the next little while. I don't know if it's quick enough to happen at like All In, but I have a feeling that that's what's going to happen.
Well, the latest is, yeah, you're correct, but he's not going to be AEW bound in time for All Elite. His WWE contract, he's done all the dates on his contract, but his contract doesn't expire until the end of September. So he's not going to make All In. He's not going to make Grand Slam. But according to Wade Keller of PW Torch, Edge told WWE what the cost would be to retain his services. It was evidently a big number. And WWE said, I guess we won't be retaining your services then. And the belief is that if he offered that number, somebody had offered him that number. And there's one guy with deep pockets, lives out in Jacksonville. I was thinking, hey, if I have Edge and Christian, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, I'm having a good time. So
these
Edge
are the cool action figures that I didn't get when I was a kid, and now I can play with them here. And
well, I mean, that
3 of the 4 of them kind of still work. You know.
But... Yes, definitely 2 of the 4, and definitely 1 of the 4 you need to keep your eye on a little bit. Needs supervision. It is
surprising, but I mean, like, it surprised me when, you know, like Mark Henry and the Big Show went All Elite to do whatever it is that they do there. You know, like it honestly, I didn't think that WWE would let the value that is Edge go. Unless it is some impossibly insane deal, and it's a Bret Hart situation in 1997. Like, there's no way we can give you that. So, see ya.
Well,
you know.
So, the belief is that Tony is throwing around ridiculous money. So Barry Bloom, he became famous on Beyond the Mat. He's the big agent tried to hook New Jack up with some Hollywood acting gigs. I don't know if that was his best active agenting, but he apparently said to Sports Illustrated that the deal the Young Bucks signed with AEW was the largest deal for any tag team he's ever seen ever, including Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in WCW. So, like, if you remember, those guys were given
it was like $3 million or something.
Yeah. So like multiple
because in that digits. Wrestling with Shadows, Bret Hart mentions that the deal that WCW offered him was $9 million over 3 years.
Yeah, and then Scott Hall and Kevin Nash had the favorite nations clause, which meant anybody they brought in that made more money than them, they got bumped up. So if I was Hall and Nash, I'd just be like, "Hey, Eric, Bret Hart's pretty good, eh? Think you? I mean, he's worth a lot of money, but bring him in. Come on."
Hey yo.
Kevin Nash has a podcast which I think is worth listening to too, because he very nonchalantly brings up things that are just like, what the like, remember when WCW or when WWE put out all those ads saying like Razor Ramon and Diesel are coming back, and it ended up being the fake Diesel? Apparently they ended up getting a pay bump in WCW because of that, because WCW was like, are they going to what's going on? And they had to sign them to new deals. And the whole time Nash was like, me and Hall were like, I have no idea what Vince is doing, but it has nothing to do with us at all.
That is amazing. Now, but yeah, so if Edge has some insane crazy deal that's like, $10 million for 2 matches in 4 years, like, I don't think anyone's going to begrudge him that if WWE is like, you know what, too rich for our blood. Because the other thing too is like, what do you do with Edge if you keep him in WWE for that price? Like, he's won everything 4 times. He's beat everyone 10 times. The Judgment Day leader thing was cool for a bit, and I thought that ended too quick. But I also cannot argue with the results of that change. So
yeah, no kidding.
It's like, what do you do with him? And I think that maybe they have a new head of creative, I hear. So perhaps he's thinking in a different direction. And I'm sure if it just came down to dollars, there's no harm, no foul. And maybe he'll sign a 1-match contract in 3 years and retire under the banner for which he came.
Maybe. I mean, him and Christian have always said they wanted to end their careers together, just like they began them together. And you've got Edge, Christian, Matt, Jeff Hardy. Like, those guys broke into the business together. Like, what a weird time. Like Jeff Hardy was like 17 at the time. You know, like Terry Funk could have been his grandfather while they were on the same roster. And they were having these matches that, like, wrestling fans or WWE fans at the time, I don't think they'd seen anything like that. Well, there definitely wasn't.
Well, there really wasn't much, a lot like that.
Yeah, like the first ladder match was WrestleMania 10. And then by the time you get to WrestleMania 15, Edge and Christian have taken it to like TLCs and things like that. And so for it all to go full circle, and then you've got the 4 of them back in the same, like, you have to do an Edge and Christian versus Hardy's match. Now, even if it's complete shit, even if it's just terrible, just do it. Do some of the moves you used to do, but just be careful with them and collect your money.
DX versus the Brothers of Destruction in Saudi Arabia. Like, we understand there was a very large check involved in this, so just do your things. Try not to hurt each other too. Oh, okay, Hunter, you're hurt already. All right, fine.
Yeah,
that's still one of the funniest lines that Chris Jericho ever said when he was talking about calling people, and he was like, "I was going to call Kevin Nash, but he tore his quad picking up the phone." I was like, yeah. Now I think about that when I think of Triple H, because I'm like, oh, look, he dropped his pencil, must have tore a pec.
Oh, man. But you know what? Like, I'm interested in seeing it happen just because, wrestlers in AEW, well, the top wrestlers, the wrestlers that Tony Khan had action figures of or wanted action figures of, they get to kind of do what they want. So it'll be kind of cool. Like, Edge is going to get to paint his last hurrah sort of thing, right? Like,
I don't know. I'm in my head. I was like, oh, has Edge always wanted to paint? Like, is that a thing about Edge that I don't know?
He seems like he might be a painter.
He said that in a book and just he's never gotten around to it. Now you're like, oh, finally, he can learn those watercolors.
I could see him out in like a nice lush garden, with a
hair blowing in the wind.
Hair blowing in the wind, painting as Beth Phoenix comes out with a tray of lemonade. It's like, are we having a lovely retirement? I was like, yes. I'm so glad I didn't break my neck in AEW in my last match.
All of our professional wrestling endeavors have paid off quite handsomely, my love.
Oh, man. But I've enjoyed Christian in AEW. Like, I think that's a perfect way to use Christian, where he wrestles every once and again, but he's a personality basically every show. And he's such a great
mouthpiece. Like,
he's awesome.
Fantastic. He was always one of my, I felt, favorite underappreciated heels of the era.
Oh God,
like his stuff was always so good.
I remember when SummerSlam was in Toronto one year and Christian wasn't on the card, and I was pissed. It was the year that JBL wrestled The Undertaker for the world title, and like Eugene wrestled Triple H. I was like, what are we doing here? There's no Christian. So I thought it'd be fun at the time to just cheer for Christian in every match. Like, something's going on. I was like, yeah, Christian, woo! And there was one guy who just could not understand that I was joking, that I knew Christian wasn't in the match. He kept giving me these looks like, and I wanted to be
squinting to see if he's.
I know.
Him. What is he? Is he under the ring?
What the shit? I felt the WWE, well, the entire crowd turned on that SummerSlam because it was terrible. But I felt that not giving us Christian was just not
Look,
redeemable.
It couldn't have hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just throw everything you got out there. You know,
the one thing with Edge and
understand how Eugene was ever a thing.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
That was like,
they shouldn't have been able to get away with it then, right?
Yeah.
Like, let alone now, you know?
Yeah, it just and like, oh, it is one of the ickier things that I can think of, and there's some pretty good ick.
Oh yeah,
in there.
Yeah,
but
that's one of those things. Like, as many wrestling fans with girlfriends who don't like wrestling know, you kind of spoon.
That's a problem.
Well, you kind of spoon feed like what wrestling you show them so that they have as good of an opinion as possible of wrestling. So when you say, no, I can't do that, I'm going to watch wrestling, it's better well received. I would never show my partner anything to do with Eugene, like, at all. There's no way it would happen. Like, I'd just be such an embarrassing part of wrestling history, you know?
Or it'd have to be predicated with like, I wasn't watching when this happened, or I stopped watching when this happened, you know, for a while. But like, yeah, no, I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. And
no.
That list is
I would like to segue this into something that I feel has a lot to do with Zen and the art of watching wrestling, which I thought was a clever kind of title at the time. But on the very first episode of this show, we had talked about how, like, watching wrestling with a focus of trying to pick out, like, what are the good things? What is it about Seth Rollins' character that everybody likes that I don't, for whatever reason, you know, trying to find that so that you end up
find that understanding, you know, reach across that aisle. Yeah.
But the same thing I do with, like, Star Wars stuff. Anything to do with, like, sometimes fans really do not like Star Wars. Like a Star Wars content they think is bad or whatever. I like to watch whatever this Attack of the Clones may be and say to myself, all right, I know some people don't think this is good, but the people who made it obviously think it's good. This is a finished product. They watched it and went, yeah, this is what I'm sending out to the world. So why did they think it was great? Well, it turns out Bryan Danielson has a very similar attitude to all things. All things, yes. Well, this is helpful for life as well.
Okay.
As watching wrestling. One might be more important and time consuming than the other. I don't know.
Watching wrestling. Yeah.
So unfortunately, I had to listen to Nikki and Brie Bella's podcast to hear Bryan Danielson say
for work.
For work. So basically what Danielson said was he was asked about having to miss the Wembley Stadium show because he has a broken arm. He broke his arm in his match against Kazuchika Okada at Forbidden Door, which was awesome to see live. But so he's talking with Brie Bella on her podcast about how he appreciates that match because he wrestled 10 minutes of it with a broken arm. And broken arms hurt. But he went and did it anyway. And so he said that led him to appreciate it more because he's trying to learn to take pleasure in things that are difficult or uncomfortable. So here's what he said to Brie Bella. I did a press conference afterward with my broken arm, and we didn't know how bad it was at the time. But I do this a lot when fasting. When you put yourself in an uncomfortable position where you do something and it's uncomfortable, which is most uncomfortable things, and you keep doing it. So you keep doing it, but the thing is not like, okay, yeah, I did it. It's, can you keep a positive attitude while you're doing it? So while you're wrestling with a broken arm, can you still say, I'm having fun right now. This is a good time. I'm wrestling Okada. This is great. Yeah, my arm's all messed up, but I'm still going to enjoy this experience. Same thing he said, like when fasting, you know, like if I'm trying to go like 12 hours without eating food, which I don't recommend, can I have a positive attitude while I'm hungry? And I thought this is a perfect attitude for Zen and the art of watching wrestling, because sometimes watching wrestling is uncomfortable. But you have to tell yourself, I'm going to have the best attitude possible while watching 3 hours of Monday Night Raw, and then I will appreciate it as best as I can possibly appreciate it. So I thought that was, Danielson's a very interesting guy. He talked about keeping a gratitude journal, like every night. He just writes things that he's thankful for. And I think that's such it's great, but you don't think of a professional wrestler as someone having this kind of perspective, right? Like,
no, a dream journal isn't really what they had next to their bedside tables in the 80s. It was more like mountains of coke.
Yeah. Like ravishing Rick Rude was not sitting down going, today I was grateful because it was lovely weather and I could go for a walk in nature. He was doing cocaine and dying early. So I just thought that was a very cool kind of thing that he expressed that he likes to do. There. So hooray for Bryan Danielson.
He is a very Zen guy, I believe.
He is a very Zen guy. Yeah.
I think his wooden burlap championship belt is the greatest belt of all time. And even if it is just a giant logo, it was the best custom belt ever.
So I worked in environmental nonprofits for 12 years. And the crossover between environmental people and wrestling fans, very small. But it's not zero. There are when these people find each other, you know what they say immediately? So you're a big fan of Bryan Danielson's sustainable WWE champion? Oh my God, I love that. I texted everybody I know that's both an environmental person and a wrestling fan. So you texted 2 people? Yes! 2 people!
We have a group chat, yes.
But I love the sustainable title. So I'm really hopeful that Bryan Danielson wrestles for as long as Terry Funk wrestled. I would be quite happy to watch Bryan Danielson wrestle for the rest of both of our lives.
Well, now that he's kind of in AEW on one of those wrestle when you feel like it deals, I think he could go years, decades, because as long as he stays healthy, he's one of the best. His problem is he's always been very susceptible to injury. So, but if he's only doing 2, maybe 3 matches a year, then, maybe it's not such a bad idea that he's got time to rest in between. So, he could go forever.
Yeah, I mean, he's still getting hurt in AEW. I mean, he broke his arm and, but that's what, Tony Khan will say that about oh, well, our wrestlers, don't wrestle as much so they don't get injured as much. It's yeah, but they're you're not reining them in at all with what they're doing, right?
Matt, they still get hurt, dude.
Matt Hardy is, I don't know, old, pushing 50, and he fell off a ladder and got a concussion. Don't, Matt, somebody needed to go, Matt, you don't need to go off a ladder here. That's what Sammy Guevara's for. Right? Let Sammy Guevara take a
We get Sammy Guevara's 10 to a pack. It's fun.
Yeah. and when he's pushing 50, then he can have easy matches. But exactly. I do not want to see Matt Hardy. I definitely don't want to see Jeff Hardy, either of the Hardys, do anything off of ladders or anything where they could get hurt. These guys are old and beat up, right? Let's give them a break.
Yeah, they've paid their dues. It's okay if they don't do that stuff anymore. And I'm okay if they don't do that stuff anymore. That's how there's always a certain point with wrestling legends, possible exceptions, the Rock and Roll Express for some reason, where it just becomes okay, it's getting a little sad to watch and it's getting a little uncomfortable to watch, because it's like watching that football player who's on the field for just one season too many because he can't give it up because he doesn't know anything else, And that's an awful thing to watch as a fan of a sport and as a fan of the performers in it. And, there's always been this thing in wrestling where it's go out on your back, take the L and then slink away and you're done. I think that particularly as wrestling fandom has grown, we'd rather celebrate those people.
Yeah, I think so. Like I think that there should just be a different standard for legends who are getting a little older, where we say, like, look, man, you don't have to prove yourself in the ring anymore, but it's still cool to watch you cut promos and have like a safe match, right? Where
like the
you're
Steve
not going to
Austin
get
Kevin
hurt.
Owens match.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you got a guy like Kevin Owens who's going to make sure you're not going to get any hurt. You punch each other a bunch of times. You do one or two of your big moves, and everybody goes, "That was great."
Yeah.
Hooray. You know?
Dreams fulfilled.
I'm glad I spent $200 on this ticket. Oh,
yeah, I wish
with $180 of that going to Ticketmaster.
You were able to get tickets to WrestleMania for $200?
No.
Where were you? Sacramento?
I was thinking maybe Edge's final match. That was basically what you had to pay.
I gotcha. Well, I look forward to seeing when he does in fact become All Elite.
Yeah, me too. It won't be at All In, but I think All In is going to be a very good show.
So let's talk about All In for a second, because
let's do it.
I don't know. I mean, you're a little more plugged into everything than I am, but I felt like the build to All In, which is supposed to be kind of this huge, almost WrestleMania level show, has been fairly lackluster.
Yeah,
and not in that like, oh, the WWE will pull it out this time, like they always do at WrestleMania. Like it really seems like, and I understand things have changed and there've been strife and blah blah blah, but it's just kind of another example of the stuff going on behind the scenes at AEW overshadowing the product itself. And yeah, like I'm not even sure. I know MJF and Cole are on the card. I know Punk and Samoa Joe are on the card. I don't really know many of the other matches.
Yeah. So here's what I was thinking we could do with this here All In lineup.
So All In the All In lineup?
All In the All In lineup. We just listened to some wisdom from Bryan Danielson about looking on the positive sides of things. Like why is what's happening right now good and something that I can enjoy? Let's try and look at the 9 different matches for All In, and we'll say, hey, what have they done right here? What am I looking forward to about this match? Does that sound?
This is an excellent idea.
All right. It'll be a
I'm
good
excited
exercise
to be a part of it.
Okay, so let's start with the only match that I think has been announced for the pre-show. Maybe they'll announce some more tonight. But we got Aussie Open, Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher defending the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships against MJF and Adam Cole. What are we looking forward to about this match?
I am looking forward to seeing 4 great wrestlers put on a great wrestling match, and looking forward to the inevitable, and I'll just come right out and say it, the inevitable strife between MJF and Cole when they lose the match. So I'm looking forward to that.
I think there is an outside shot that they win, but I think Aussie Open most likely retain their titles after MJF and Adam Cole have some type of miscommunication or are perhaps not quite on the same page as you would expect 2 brochachos to be.
But how are they vis-a-vis coexisting?
Yeah, this is the classic can they coexist just hours before the main event.
Will these mega powers explode?
But like we were saying before, they're putting this on the pre-show because they want fans to watch the pre-show, and lots of people like MJF and Adam Cole to sort of see the spectacle that is All In, and then they will do something to tease what could happen later when MJF and Adam Cole finally meet for the world title, so that we just have to buy the pay-per-view so we see what happens next.
Just a word of advice from a production standpoint, though, at AEW, make sure your door time is sufficient enough that people are actually in the arena for the pre-show.
Yeah. Oh, I have no doubts there's going to be logistical problems all over the place here. However, that like the worst possible thing that could happen is one of MJF or Adam Cole gets injured in this match.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking if I've one of them, and I realize that I've just broken my leg in like 3 different places, I'm still going to think about how I can do that match later because there's like, what are you going to do? Like, that would be so terrible if that happens. So this needs to be a very safe wrestling match, and everyone needs to stretch beforehand, make sure they're hydrated, nothing risky.
Discuss any and all issues, personal and private, so that there is no miscommunication or surprise.
Yes, and please stay to your assigned locker room area and don't mix with anyone that you have a real life feud with.
Absolutely not. That would be terrible. Are we still talking about the tag match or anyway?
I don't know. But okay,
what else do we got?
I think there's lots to look forward to in that match. Okay, so then we've got the tag team championship match. Most likely with FTR defending the AEW tag team championships against the Young Bucks. What are we looking forward to about this match?
Here's one of my trademark hot takes.
Okay.
This will be a very good professional wrestling match.
This will be a fantastic professional wrestling match.
Yes.
Because it'll be incredible.
This will be 5 stars. It's 5 stars before the bell rings.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? It's the kind of match that gets in This Is Awesome chant before the match starts, It's like, this is awesome just because, of what we're witnessing.
Because it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Who do you think is gonna win?
So, I think that the Young Bucks will win.
Yeah.
Because FTR will lay down for them despite what their best friend says.
I'm assuming that the Young Bucks come away the winners of this too. But we'll just have to see. I think there will be a lot of hidden stories told in this match because both of these teams are as much as people want to say the Young Bucks aren't like this, they actually are, where they have lots of story and psychology in their matches.
Yeah.
And I think FTR and Young Bucks is going to tell a very interesting story as these two teams have been on opposite sides of a very big real life drama in wrestling, but still get along well enough that they can put on a good wrestling match. So this, I think, I'm going to call this will probably be the match of the night, I think.
Yeah, and these are both teams too that love nods to that stuff and little hat tips and inside jokes. So there's going to be tons of that kind of stuff thrown around. And like one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen was FTR, or then known as the Revival. DIY and the Authors of Pain. And the Authors of Pain had no business being in that match with those 4 people, but they made them look amazing. And it was almost like FTR. That match, one of the few that I literally was on the edge of my seat. I could see this being another one of those.
Yeah, I think it will be, because obviously this is going to be one of the biggest wrestling events of all time. You can certainly make the case that this is the biggest match of the careers for both of them.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, it is, 80,000 people. So they're going to do something special. And we are in the Easter egg era of professional wrestling matches.
Definitely.
Where there's Easter eggs in every FTR match, every single FTR match, every single CM Punk match, a lot in Young Bucks matches. So this should be good.
And on a personal note, I'm looking forward to you telling me all the Easter eggs that I miss. That adds a whole new layer for me.
It does.
Great.
So
it's great.
Ricky Starks and CM Punk had a match a couple of weeks ago that was like all callbacks to previous Ricky Steamboat matches, because Ricky Steamboat was the ref. And it was like an all callback match.
Crazy.
Then we've got a 4-way for the AEW Women's World Championship. It's the only women's match on the show, which I will probably get some complaints. But Hikaru Shida defending against Toni Storm, Saraya, and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Why are we looking forward to this match?
I'm looking forward to it because I like all the ladies involved. Yes. I like that they are all athletic and can put on good matches in their own rights. So the 4 of them together, I'm sure we'll have some great spots. I hope this is given the time it deserves to kind of play off some of these strengths.
Yeah.
And it is for the title. So I'm thinking maybe it's time you punch up that women's division a bit and you put the belt on Saraya.
Yeah, I think the title's going on Saraya too. I think this is sort of a lifetime achievement award she's going to be given in
Mm-hmm.
Wembley, and it's going to be a feel good moment for all the fans to see, the hometown girl or the home country girl
Oh yeah, she's
get the
English,
win.
isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
No, I'm
So,
kidding. I knew
all right.
that.
But I think this will be cool because look, Saraya as Paige and as Saraya, she's contributed a lot to the wrestling industry. You forget that when she debuted,
Mm-hmm.
it was the Divas title era still. Like she like
She
won
won the
that
Divas
title.
title. Yeah.
Yeah, from AJ Lee in her first match on the. So like she is a pioneer of this current era of women's wrestling that we're in. Maybe one that doesn't get as much credit as the Four
Mm-hmm.
Horsewomen does, but like who played a very pivotal role.
But you
She
know who
was.
really doesn't get enough credit, if I may be so bold,
You may.
just because I'll bring her up whenever because I loves her, is Emma
Emma,
Tennille
absolutely.
Dashwood. She does not
Emma
get enough credit.
Emma and Paige were putting on good matches in NXT before, like,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time where you were having like Nikki Bella feud with, I don't know, Brie Bella.
Kelly or
Like,
someone. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Right. Like during an era where women's wrestling was not viewed as very important, certainly like a very secondary part of the show. And I think Saraya, yeah, I think Saraya would make a great AEW Women's World Champion, and I think that'll start to cause some dissension with Toni Storm. Toni
Mm-hmm.
Storm, who I'm a big fan of Toni Storm.
Oh yeah, I love her.
I think she's one of the best women's wrestlers going today. Hikaru Shida, I also feel about that, or feel the same way about her. Britt Baker is, one of the best characters AEW's got. The face of the division. She's
Mm-hmm.
definitely
Mm-hmm.
that. People will call her a pillar of the company, so it makes a lot of sense that she's in this match. So, yeah, I think it'll be cool. But yeah, I agree. Saraya is gonna win. Okay,
Concur.
so moving on, then we have
What's next?
we have the coffin match: Darby Allin and Sting versus AR Fox and Swerve Strickland. So, I've really been liking a lot of the stuff that Darby Allin and sort of the Pacific Northwest crew has been doing. So, like all the guys that wrestle in Defy have sort of like they're doing their own angle. So, AR Fox, Swerve Strickland, Darby Allin, and now Nick Wayne have been doing this angle on Dynamite. So there has been a story there, and now Sting involved in it. Sting in front of 80,000 people. A lot of people thought they would do Sting's retirement match at Wembley, but from what it sounds like, Sting's, he's
Sticking
talked
around.
about retirement for 15 years.
He's retired like 8 times.
Yeah. So he did an interview like a while back where he said, well, I know how I want to end my career. Darby's involved. And so I think a lot of people took that to mean that the end is coming soon. And based on Tony Khan's comments on the AW media call, he's been given no indication that Sting is planning on wrapping up his career. So
does he know which one Sting is?
Does Tony Khan know which one Sting is?
Yeah, just making sure.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, cool. Because I'd be if I had like, how old is he now? Like 62.
Who, Cena?
If I had
Sting?
No, Sting.
He's in his early 60s. I heard Cena for some reason.
Cena looks great for 62.
For early 60s, Cena's doing good.
You have a 62-year-old legend in your company, like doing things that he probably shouldn't be doing. Right. And being like, he's traveling a lot too. He's one of the boys. I'd be checking in with that guy fairly often to be like, hey man, you okay? You feeling all right? Any thoughts on retirement? No? Okay, I'll see you next week. Like, just to make sure that he knows that I know he's still there.
Yeah, I get the feeling that AEW doesn't do a bang up job of checking in with some of the wrestlers to see if, are there any things bothering you? How are you getting along with the other wrestlers? I don't feel like a lot of conversations like that have taken place over the
That's fair.
4 years.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Maybe they just need like a good HR person.
Well, do you remember there was a sign in the audience at an AEW Dynamite, like after all the brawl, that just said, "Hire an HR expert." And that guy wasn't trying to be funny. That guy,
he was trying to apply.
He was he's like, "Look, I'm on the team here too. I want this to be successful. You guys need to hire an HR expert."
Seriously. What else we got?
All right. So lots of reasons to look forward to the coffin match. Darby Allin will do something crazy. Hopefully Sting won't. It'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have a 6-man tag team match as my Amazon Echo goes off. Alexa, not right now. We're talking about AEW All In. Okay, so next we have a 6-man tag team match or a trios match.
But it's not even for the trios titles.
Oh, wait. No, it's not for the trios titles.
Yeah, so trios can we legally call it a trios match?
No, we'll just call it 6 guys wrestling 3 on each team.
Maybe we'll call it a triangle match like they used to call it in WCW.
Yeah, but that was a triple threat. This is...
Oh, you're right. My mistake. Continue.
Ibushi, Kenny Omega, and Hangman Page against Konosuke Takeshita and Bullet. Why is Bullet Club teaming up with Konosuke Takeshita? And why am I not confident I know what the match is for Kenny Omega at All In? Seems like...
Right?
Well, I'm
not so crazy.
They just did this thing on like last week's show where Jay White and Juice Robinson attacked Kenny Omega. But other than that, they haven't really, Takeshita and Kenny Omega have been feuding. But yeah, I don't know. This one maybe feels like, all right, well, we want all these guys on the show, but it does feel like you couldn't have Kenny Omega in a singles match on this show. Like
perhaps a triangle match for the world title.
Perhaps a triangle match. But I'll do the Bryan Danielson thing of like, what am I looking forward to about this match? This match from bell to bell will be fantastic because all 6 involved are really, really good. My personal favorite of the 6 right now anyway is Juice Robinson. I could watch Juice Robinson every day.
He's come a long way from CJ Parker.
He has come a long way from CJ Parker. No, I've been like Juice Robinson, Jay White, and the Guns on Collision. I think have been really cool. Like I think they've been one of, if not the best part of AEW Collision.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what we've got to look forward to in that match is it'll be a great match. There has been a bit of a story with Takeshita being with Don Callis and Bullet Club turning on Kenny Omega. So all right. It'll be
Kenny
fun.
Omega is a man with complicated relationships.
He is. He is a man with complicated relationships.
Forget the belt collector. He should just be known as the man with complicated relationships.
Complicated relationship, Kenny Omega.
Kenny complicated relationship, Omega.
By God.
I can just hear Justin Roberts already. Kenny. Complicated response.
Okay, so next up,
sorry, I had to finish that up.
We have the Stadium Stampede match, which I'm sure will be good. It's Eddie Kingston, Orange Cassidy. Yeah, sorry.
Eddie Kingston, Orange Cassidy, sorry.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear who's in the match.
Eddie Kingston, Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, and Pentagon Jr. And also Phoenix, but there's rumors that Phoenix isn't going to be able to make it because he's trying to get residency in the States. And they have this stupid thing where you can't leave the States while this process is going on. So Chelsea,
silly. Like, if you want to live here, you're going to stay here, mister.
Oh, wow. we only want
Okay.
people here who want to be here. But I don't know. So, but Chelsea Green couldn't visit her family in Canada for like the longest time because she was trying to get a green card. Ridiculous.
Strange.
So yeah, them against the Blackpool Combat Club, as well as 3 wrestlers to be announced. The 3 wrestlers to be announced should be interesting.
Yeah, I kind of wish they'd been announced though.
Yeah, but there's a reason why they haven't been announced. I hope that reason isn't we don't know who they are. I hope
I'm going to go out on a limb.
It's exciting.
And say, I'm going to lean more in the direction of we don't know who they are yet. And no matter who comes traipsing down that aisle, it's going to be a disappointment.
Okay. For them to see, we'll know right away which is the case.
Yeah.
If this is a surprise, it's either a surprise they wanted to give us or like they just didn't have the wrestlers locked up for it.
It's going to be something completely random like, and daddy ass. Why?
Well, because we weren't sure who all was going to get into the country.
A wrestler that works here. Okay.
If it is like, if there is like some reason why they've wanted this to be a surprise, like they have to be 3. They would be 3 wrestlers who like, hey, it's cool seeing them, but it's not like a big signing or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just don't know who they've got not doing anything that would be like a huge, massive reveal.
I would say that it's probably, except for they're going to be on the heel team. Because otherwise I'd say that they would be like English wrestling legends.
Maybe. Yeah.
But
like real Blackpool combat people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the other thing. They're the Blackpool Combat Club. So you would think, I don't know. They would have to fit sort of the theme of the Blackpool Combat Club, and I think also be English. I think that's possible.
Yeah. So,
but then you're putting people who are going to get a babyface reaction with the heel team. So maybe they just don't know who's going to be.
Maybe they're expecting the Combat Club to be cheered. Maybe they're expecting that to happen.
That could happen too. You know.
Yeah, that sounds like where we're from. Yeah.
But that'll be good because it's the Stadium Stampede match, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, what all can they do around an 80,000 seat arena?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Is it going to be like a pre-taped thing?
I don't think so.
And they just show it to the people in the arena, or is it going to like interact with the fans? So,
well, the way that they've done it before is you've basically got wrestling matches going on all around the arena. So like they all pair off with each other. Like, remember when they did the Jaguars stadium?
Yeah, but the stadium was empty.
Yeah. This stadium's not going to be empty. So that'll be that was pre-taped.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, are they going to do that with this, where they like have the match earlier in the afternoon while the place is empty and then just show it? Or do you think they're going to do something within the live setting?
I don't know. I think it would be hard to make 80,000 people watch TV. Like I think you have to do at least some of it live.
Yeah.
And probably the end as well. I mean, you could definitely pre-tape some of the stuff that's going to go on and
yeah.
But yeah, I think you want to have the main stuff live for sure.
Yeah. Either way, I'm looking forward to it because I like all those people, and now I'm intrigued as to what pasty old people they're going to drag out to be like, and they're on their team now, you know. So yeah,
it'll be good. It'll be. I have a feeling it'll be kind of funny because you got Orange Cassidy in it, and it's the sort of match where you can do funny stuff, like I thought the first Stadium Stampede match was so funny. I remember watching it, and this is May 2020. I don't know what anybody else was doing around May 2020, but I was dealing with uncertainty. I think we all were in some ways, you know, like that's so like you're 2 months into the pandemic and you're like, oh God, like, you know, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
And I remember watching right at the start of Stadium Stampede where the Inner Circle and the Elite were running at each other. And it was really funny. And I remember going, I'm going to be fine. As long as I got stuff like this to watch every once and again, I can put up with the global
It's
apocalypse.
not like this is gonna last years.
No, but I remember thinking, like, because sports were shut down and everything.
Yeah.
So it's like you're home all the time, and a lot of your entertainment's been taken away. And you're kind of like, this sucks. And then, when that match started, I was like, okay, you know what? It's gonna be fine.
It's all good. Yeah, it's those little pieces of comfort,
Yeah.
involving a 10-man stadium stampede match.
Well, like I know
like a warm hug.
For my dad and my brother, like when sports came back, that was a really big deal because they're super into sports, right? And there had been wrestling for the 2 months leading up to that, but it was like empty arena match. Like, remember when WWE was doing no fans at all from the like that was terrible. But
that is the correct face to make, by the way.
So Stadium Stampede, I think that'll be really, really good. That'll be one of the best matches of the night. I also think Will Ospreay versus Chris Jericho is going to be a very, very good match.
I think that's going to be an excellent match too. Kind of a bummer that he was tied up and couldn't anticipate much in the build to it, but they did a good job filling the gap. And I like Will Ospreay enough, and I get to watch him rarely enough that I'm just looking forward to seeing him work. And I know working with Jericho, he's going to work well.
Oh yeah. I watched Will Ospreay in the semifinals of the G1 tournament. Right at the end of his match with Tetsuya Naito, he full on just kicked the dude right in the face. Like they got their timing messed up where Naito went down as Ospreay was throwing a kick. And this was like Goldberg hitting Bret Hart. Like if Naito's head had flown right off, I'd be like, oh, that's what happens when you do that. But so Naito, and then he was just, the lights are on, but nobody's home. Ospreay basically did the whole last sequence. Basically, he did his own move, then made Naito reverse his move. Like Naito was his prop in the end of this thing, and it was still incredible. So that being said, if you can have a great match with a knocked out Tetsuya Naito, you can have a great match with a past his prime, but still going Chris Jericho.
Yeah. You can have a match with somebody's cool aunt who likes wine coolers. That's just kind of what Chris Jericho looks like now. I'm sorry, it's true.
You can draw some comparisons between Chris Jericho and Terry Funk, and I think a few people would be like, "No," but you absolutely can.
Oh yeah.
Especially the way they've ended their careers, assuming Jericho's ends at some point. Because Terry Funk, when he was in his early 50s, he went to ECW and he helped make that company. Chris Jericho in his early 50s, he goes to AEW and he helps make that company. So there's some similarities there. And that's this long veteran who's had an accomplished career giving back to this.
Definitely the guy that someone can say to him, like, you don't need to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Chris could just retire right now, and he's had one of the greatest careers in wrestling history. He could just tour around with Fozzy, or he could just stay home and be like, I did good. I had a good career. I'm a good guy. I'm just gonna sit around feeling good about myself. But
humming Judas. Which we will get a live performance of in Wembley too, which I'm just ever so excited about.
That'll be cool.
No, it won't.
Well, it'll be cool for him.
I've entered my not pretending Fozzy's good phase of wrestling fandom. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Look, after many, many years, he did one song that some people were like, and that's kind of the best he's going to do. But I remember Fozzy came to Toronto. I was like, I should go. And then like immediately I was like, no, you won't enjoy that.
No,
that won't be
that doesn't sound like
that won't be a good time. This is the best you're going to get out of this that time, Ian. Like, it's Chris Jericho.
I remember sitting in your basement in like 1998 being like, did you know Chris Jericho has a band? Yeah. And it's called Fozzy Osbourne. Isn't that stupid? It is stupid. And here we are.
I love seeing old pictures of Chris Jericho where he wanted to be like an 80s glam rocker. And he's got
Yeah.
like tight leather print pants, you know,
Oh,
like
so pictures
very
from last week.
yeah, well, yeah. He's got the same clothes now, basically. But that'll be cool. Like Chris Jericho and Sting, like I said, are the biggest stars on the show. So Chris Jericho's going to get a huge reaction, and then Will Ospreay is going to get the British Bulldog reaction in Wembley Stadium,
Yep.
right? Like he's their guy, and he's one of the best in the world. And 80,000 people are going to be cheering for him. That'll be a big deal.
80,000 people aren't cheering for me on the weekend. I'll tell you that.
No, I mean, you know,
not even like 4. You think I could muster 4 people just to be like, "Hey, way to go, Fatso"?
Nope. Hey, yeah. Oh well, I'm sorry about that, Jeff. I'll cheer for you. I'll give you as big a pop as I can give you.
Thanks, buddy.
And then we got two more matches left. One is for the real World's Championship. CM Punk defending against Samoa Joe.
So here's the thing about this match, okay? Mm-hmm. First of all, I'm going to love every second of it because I love every second of anything that Samoa Joe does, particularly when he does it with CM Punk. Going to love this. So
absolutely.
But wouldn't it just throw a monkey wrench into everything if for some reason Joe won that title?
He might.
Like, it would just throw everything into chaos. Like, does CM Punk just stand up and be like, well, I guess you're the real champion now and leave? Like, does Joe then have a beef with MJF? Like, how would this work?
So is this is a title then? Okay.
So can I like, can I take the X off? So he's the world title, but I'm not. Okay.
I am interested in seeing how the crowd there reacts to CM Punk. I've been in 2 crowds that have had divisive CM Punk reactions when AEW was in Toronto. My perception of that is you ended up having 2 fan bases competing with each other. Like the fans who hate CM Punk, they'll be booing, but then that seems to like motivate the CM Punk fans to cheer louder, and it ends up being like a bit of a. So that's why there's always like a big hum of activity going on in CM Punk matches. You've got competing chants, competing boos versus cheers, but there's always like it's never silent.
Yeah. He becomes Cena.
Oh yeah, no, he is. Yeah. He is the new age John Cena. They have different fan bases. Like the divide between the fan bases is different. John Cena's was more like kids, and the parents of kids were big Cena fans, whereas the just wrestling fans who have not brought their children to the show are like, not so.
Who's this guy?
Cena. Yeah. Punk's fans, it's funny, like CM Punk and the Elite, the divide between them represents a divide that has existed between wrestling fans for some time now, where you have the new school fans who love, 100 Canadian destroyers and super kicks in every match. And you've got the fans who prefer a slower, more story-based style. And so, it's really convenient the way that's worked out. You've got so
it plays into a very natural thing, which is, the generationalism of it all. And there's, not a lot of entertainment properties. I guess the sports teams and stuff you can have sort of a generational fandom of, but there's not a lot of entertainment properties that you can do that with.
Yeah.
Like my kids aren't, or I wasn't like, oh boy, they rebooted Dallas. My dad liked that. I guess I'll watch it. Like that didn't happen. But with wrestling, there's just a constant stream of it. So
it's not like it's not like the NBA could go, okay, in the Eastern Conference, everybody's going to be super into dunking the basketball. In the Western Conference, you guys are going to be like 3-pointers. But you
and
can
in the South, fundamentals.
But yeah, you can do it in wrestling, especially if you have 2 different shows. And so that's what I love about, I wish the divide in AEW wasn't as contentious as it is. Yeah. I wish it was like more of like a friendly, like, well, we like this style of wrestling, but hey, we like the other style of wrestling. Okay, well, our show is going to compete with your show. And like, I don't know, like, I'm sick of
And then
the high
Rampage
school
just like, I'm
drama.
here too.
Me too, guys. Like, what's your identity? I'm on Fridays.
Yeah.
I'm only an hour. Come watch Sky Blue wrestle.
Oh,
I like Sky Blue.
me too.
She's just on Rampage a lot. Okay, so lots of reasons, lots of Bryan Danielson reasons to like CM Punk versus
lots
Samoa
of Zen
Joe.
reasons. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But I do find with every CM Punk match, I missed like the first 8 minutes because I'm transfixed on trying to figure out the fan reaction. And it's like, oh shit, the wrestling match.
Oh yeah, right. He's weird. Gotta do this. Okay, cool.
Okay, we're down to our 5. We've already gone to another half hour here. So for the World Championship, MJF versus Adam Cole. I think I think it's clear to see why we can all be excited for this match. I mean, it's great wrestlers, great story, and I'm assuming a great story plays out.
Great friends too.
Great friends. So how do you end this
friends match? Comes great betrayals.
Yeah.
Because
you've got it. Okay, 80,000 people. How do you close this show? It's MJF, Adam Cole. What happens at the end?
Adam Cole has MJF beat when CM Punk shows up, interferes, and allows MJF to retain the title so that they can have a one-on-one match to unify the AEW titles.
That is an entirely possible sequence of events. Yeah. There's others, but yeah.
Or Paul White shows up and wins the title. I don't know.
I think that's definitely a possibility. So CM Punk becoming involved, because remember, you got to set up something for CM Punk the following week in Chicago. He's going to be the big baby face on that show. So if he's wrestling MJF, you've got to set that up in this match here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he's wrestling, like, because they're building a lot between Punk and Ricky Starks too. So it could be Punk and Ricky Starks on that show.
Maybe I guess it depends how seriously they're going to take that show.
Yeah.
Like if they plan to have, like I say, sort of something big happen here and then pay off on the second pay-per-view next week, then it's going to be something big like him versus MJF, and maybe, you know, a third person interferes. Now there's no title or something, you know, like one of those things. And yeah, I don't know. But if they just want to have him like be a clean babyface, win a match against someone who's a great opponent, then yeah, him and Starks, why not?
There's 2 other possibilities. Well, it's the same possibility, but it can be done differently. That I think is possible as well. So the Kingdom and Roderick Strong have played into this storyline. They're going to be involved. They're going to be involved at All In. So what do? One thing is that Adam Cole could turn heel, turn on MJF, and they've teased this, that Adam Cole could turn heel and then align with Roderick Strong and the Kingdom. So you've got Adam Cole wins the world championship by devious, underhanded means and is your heel champion. That's possible. The other possibility is MJF turns heel on Adam Cole and he aligns with Roderick Strong in the Kingdom. So Roderick Strong in the Kingdom coming into play here, and somebody turning heel is another way that this pay-per-view could end, I think.
Yeah. I think someone's definitely going to turn heel.
Yeah.
In any situation. Like, but I honestly don't know which one you do at this point. Like MJF is one of the best heels working, but people seem to like him as a babyface. You know, Adam Cole can be a heel, no problem, but you know, he's not bad as a babyface either. So I mean, which one is? There's benefits to both.
I think they could do either scenario, and it would be great. Like I think either way, like one of them turning on the other. I mean, I'm assuming that's going to happen. Like one person is going to end the brochacho relationship, right? Now, do they do the turn on the pre-show?
Well, that's what I think. You know, they do the tease of the turn.
Yeah.
And then they do the actual turn in the match, and then
go
wherever they're going to go with it.
Yeah,
but,
like the first chapter of somebody turning on the other is on the pre-show.
Yeah.
And then all other chapters are in the event.
And then the second and final chapter.
Yes. This strange 2-chapter book.
It's really more of like a DVD wallet.
It's like a novella. Book. It's like a novella, you know.
But yeah, and I think that I sometimes may come across as giving AEW crap or whatever, but I honestly think it's pretty amazing that they've managed to put together this show. And even the matches that have not had much of a story build, I'm still interested to see for other reasons. So, it's going to be great.
It is going to be great. And just when you look at the lineup and you realize, like, Tony Khan has taken his best wrestlers and put them on this show. Yeah. Everybody on this show is a good wrestler. The only one that you could say is like, okay, well, whoever the 3 to be announced guys are, you could say that maybe Britt Baker and Saraya aren't on the same level as Hikaru Shida and Tony Storm, but they're both fine. They're both great characters and good wrestlers.
Yes.
Whereas Tony Storm and Hikaru Shida are great wrestlers and good, better than good, and I think in Tony Storm's case, characters.
Yes. Yes, agree.
All right, we're less than
that countdown. We're just like, yeah, We're
less than a minute. We've got to just spurt out as many good things about All In as we possibly can.
If you say it fast, it sounds like Darby Allin.